did some extra stuff this time. It's always doing something.
All right. Well, Grand Rising. This is the Straight Talk Morning Show on the Straight Talk Network. My name is Andre Hill, your host, and we have other hosts and engineer, Andre Hill Jr.
I'm all right. Peace and love, family. Peace and love.
And also we have with us the chairman of the United Aboriginal American Republic Council of Elders out of Detroit, Terrence Lick. How you doing this morning, sir?
Grand Rising, everyone. It's a beautiful day here in Detroit. You know, we got some 55-degree weather. And happy belated birthday to Andre Jr.
Thank you, Chairman. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I told his mother he was catching up with me.
No, you don't want him to catch up with you. Maybe another 20 years.
Oh, yeah. So, Chairman, of course, I was going to wear you out about the Lions running the street of Detroit, but it has been debunked as some kind of prankster. So how the Lions looking for the Super Bowl?
Well, they're looking strong, you know. It'll be a miracle if they don't win, because it's in the bag in a sense. I don't want to jinx them, but you know, I'm looking, I'm watching, and hoping.
All right. Also, with our Council of Elders, we have Queen Mother Brenda Allen. How you doing this morning, Queen?
I am supernatural and fantastic. Mayat Hotep Kings. I'm glad to be a part of the panel today.
Okay, so this is a very important end of the year show, particularly for the Black male. I usually post the topics on Friday on our points of discussion. And this post goes as, good afternoon, family. Tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube. We are live on YouTube. And since Facebook shut down our Straight Talk Morning Show page, we're posting live from my page as long as we can continue to post. So you can also go to Andre Hill Sr. and watch the show from there. There is only one New Year's resolution option left for the Black Aboriginal Native American man in 2025. Without it, you're done. We got quite a few videos we're going to play in this because we're going to reinforce this. Black Aboriginal men, we want to explain to you about you've been lied to and how you've been lied to and what you're going to do about it. Also, Brenda discovered a disturbing video about the hypocrisy of the United States of corporate America. Also, the drone mystery continues. Army personnel confess, is it real? Tune in and be enlightened. So we have a series of videos that we're going to play. I want to get the brothers in the mood of understanding why we're dedicating this show to them, why their New Year's resolution should be about survival. And we have a video that I found after I posted these topics. You're done unless you get your act together, unless you come together. Hey man, can you give us a little taste of the Claude Anderson video? And that video, when I watched it, and it's an older video, it's not recent, but it was an elder of our community prophesizing. What's about it? No, that's the military guy. There we go.
There it is.
For you. You see, what's happening to Black Americans is that Black Americans have been systematically, socially engineered into the lowest level of a real-life monopoly game. You do not own and control a sufficient amount of anything to be competitive in America. And you've been marginalized now for 400 years. You're getting ready to be buried. You can get buried underneath a whole broad groups of ambiguous groupings. That's everything from culture groups, language groups, and gender groups. You're going down. It's no longer an issue. You better get reparations and get it fast. Now, to get reparations, one of the things I've been trying to do now for 30 years, beginning with the state of Florida, when Governor Rubin Askew put me over education, when they had no blacks in politics in Florida, was to write the first affirmative action plan in the United States, and that was written to be reparations for black folk in 1971. And George Bush Jr., I guess, what's his name, Jeb Bush, just killed it off about 6 months ago. But what's happening now is that what I'm trying to do is create a Harvest Institute that would try to take all my colleagues here and as much as possible try to give you new points of information that take you outside the box. Part of the problem we got in trying to deal with reparations, a lot of the other racial issues in the country, is that we keep trying to think and find solutions inside the box. There are no solutions inside the box for black folk. You got to get outside and try to find and get a long-term perspective and a long view on it. And that's what the Harvest Institute is in existence for, and that's what they're going to stay in existence for. Now, the reason you cannot win, as I said, is that you've been locked into this low level of a real-life monopoly game. You do not own and control enough of wealth. See, in 1860, for instance, black folk, as a direct result of slavery, had an ownership. When you were 98% slaves, you had an ownership of 0.5% of this nation's wealth in 1860 on the eve of the Civil War. Now, this is the richest country in the world, the most capitalistic country in the world. And here you are 140 years after slavery when you're supposedly 100% free and you still only have 0.5% of this nation's wealth. You cannot compete. The typical average white person in America has 3,500 times more money than you have. And that's not true only of blacks in America, it's true of the world internationally. What's happening right now is blacks is a marginalized, subordinated class of people all over the earth. You have 0.5% of the wealth in this nation. The same thing is true all over the world. In the world, there's approximately $392 trillion worth of wealth on the earth. And black folk around in the world have less than 1% ownership of it. That includes all the African countries, that includes Brazil, Caribbean, and America. You don't own enough control of anything. Whites control almost 100% of all the wealth, power, resources, privileges, and controls of all levels of government. You're playing a game you can't win. You got to get reparations. Now, how are you going to get it? Let me run through 3 or 4 things very quickly because I don't want to take up the time here. First thing you must do, I've heard it mentioned already, we got to commit a national campaign all over this country to start publicizing the issue of reparations for black folk. Not as something nice, but as a necessity, period. That means every living soul, every organization, every corps, every institution in this country must begin to start promoting reparations for black folk all over this country. That's level 1. It's a massive promotion of reparations for black folk. Second level 2. What we must do at second level 2 now is to start having facts-finding hearings. You must have facts-finding hearings all over this country. And you're going to have facts-finding hearings on at least 2 different levels. One is you're going to go after facts finding about what roles governments have played in the reparations, in the slavery trade against black folk, and enslavement of black folk, the marginalization of black folk. And that should break down into 2 levels. One is to investigate all levels of domestic governments, that's city, county, federal, and state governments. And the second group would go after the international. So you should have 2 groups of black folk in this country exploring and fact finding on what roles government have played, one domestically and one internationally. On the left-hand side, you should be doing the same thing for the domestic side. You should be going after the private sector. You should be going after all the private corporations in the United States, what roles they played and how they benefited directly from slavery. And also, on the same side, you must go after all the international corporations and the roles they played and how they benefited. Now, the Harvest Institute right now, my think tank, we've already picked up one. We put out a press release on that. We're going after domestic role that major corporations played in the United States. We've already identified approximately 240 companies that are still in existence that profiteer directly and enrich themselves off of black folk. We're going after that. And what we have to do in our fact finding is be able to factuate, document the direct line between how blacks have been crippled all the way up to economically, politically, socially, and educationally, and tied into these major corporations or tied into levels of government. That's your level 2. Level 3, you must then start having a national convention in this country. And right now, I think Dorothy Tillman in Chicago is already, we talked about this. She's going to try to call one in Chicago this coming year. We must have everybody who's playing a role, like Congressman Conyers and everybody from the Congress and Cobra, everybody should be at a national convention where we all come in there to not only energize each other, but to share information, see where we are. They're trying to set that up for this coming February, someplace in the United States, possibly Chicago. That's your 3rd level. The 4th level you should start doing is trying to get into, out of this conference should come strategies and plans and a specific role model. You got to have a model that every black can tie into. a model for reparations. Now, my model is a little different from everyone else's, and that's because I'm outside the box. I'm trying to pull everybody else outside if I can get them. Now, most people are going to try to follow the Jewish reparations model or the Japanese model. I'm following the Indian model. The Indians are the most appropriate model if you want to track down, doing anything to get reparations of black folk. Why? Because you see, only American Indians and black folk were spelled out in the Constitution. The Indians own reservations and black folk. There's a direct lineage between those two groups. And if you really want to track and get reparations, the easiest and quickest way is to go find out what happened to American Indians, what benefits they got, and track it. In my new book called Power Numbers, it takes you through every one of those steps. You can follow it. If you pick that up, you can come right to reparations very quickly, because it'll be very difficult for the government to deny black folk for the same thing they're giving the Indians. So when you hear people talking about how bad off Indians are, first thing you say, fine, if Indians that bad off, put us as black folk in the same status with the Indians. We'll take that. Because see, right, what Indians got, first of all, nobody declared Indians to be a nation. Indians declared themselves to be a nation. They declared themselves to be a nation all the way up until about 1832 when Supreme Court Justice Marshall said, okay, I'll recognize you as a nation. We never declared ourselves to be a nation. We've always tried to do just the opposite of what the Indians did. Once they became a nation, they drew up a constitution for themselves. We never had a constitution. And what the Indians did with that constitution is then to go to the United States government and say, we do not want to integrate. We did just the opposite. We integrated. And I can track everything right down, or we can follow the Indian model if you want to. And you can see, and all that's already built into the law, and there's a direct lineage between American Indians and black folk that you can follow very easily and get to reparations. But we need to have a model. And in my new book, I get that model to be on the stand in about another month. You get the Power Numbers model that take you through all those steps of what they did throughout history, from the Blair Amendments and everything else. You can track them very easily, and it'd be very difficult for the United States government to deny you reparations when you only two people that have a constitutional relationship with this government is black folk and Indians. Just like Indians use what they call natural rights and lay their claim against the land, we should use natural law and lay a claim against our labor, misappropriated labor. The next level what you must do is move to a legal step. You need to form at the fourth level, get you a legal body right now, whether it's going to be pro bono or paid. And out of our convention, we should be able to raise some funds to set up a mass legal body that be ready to start serving suits based on those facts that you're going to find at the second level. And we start to find those, then we should have people going after suits. One side suing the different levels of government, other side suing the private sector to get reparation funds for black folk. Then at the last level, you need to set up, at the sixth level, you need to set up some kind of a pool or resource or retrieval agency that every time we get some benefits, we're going to a special fund that will be held for pooling and aggregating. Now then out of that special agency, we break away into two groups, what I would recommend. One, you would have an economic development bank on the East Coast and an economic development bank on the West Coast. And what those banks would do is take most of the money you get, not give it to black folk as individuals. You put it into a massive bank where black folk can go draw that money to start low interest, get low interest loans or free monies to build businesses and industries throughout the United States. You also, if you track the Indians, you should try to get yourself some tax-free, tax-exempt land. Just like Indians can go grab any piece of land and federalize and put up a casino, you tell me you want to do the same thing as a black person, get tax-exempt statuses. We can go on and on. Well, there's a lot of things we can track. Go after the Indians. But the thing that's most important, I'm going to quit, is that you got to understand that reparations are an absolute necessity. We're going to get buried alive. We do not have enough to be able to compete in this society. And the further we get away from the civil rights movement, the worse things are going to get. And when people start talking about slavery, don't just talk about slavery. Talk about Jim Crow slavery and benign neglect. You got to understand what slavery was. Slavery is the illegitimate child of racism. Racism still exists. That's slavery. Because what racism does, racism keeps and maintains what was created by slavery. Now, racism is a competitive economic struggle between groups of people for power and wealth. And it's slavery, and racism never existed until the 16th century. And when slavery went out of existence, racism took over. Racism has gone from meaning slavery to being something biological. Then it moved on in about the 1800s. It returns to be something as a personal behavior or an attitude, and now a bias and a prejudice. Racism has nothing to do with attitudes, with prejudice, and with bias. Racism is a competitive group contest between people for race, resources, and for superiority. And racism is a race without a finish line. I thank you very much.
Okay. All right. So let's look at Dr. Claude Anderson's plan. It's a good plan, but it has flaws because it's still connected to the history that we were slaves and that we were brought here from Africa. He didn't say that, but it's an assumption that we are appealing for reparations for lost income and we build a nation. The problem with that is we were here, already here, large amounts of Black Aboriginals long before the Europeans even came out the cave 6,000 years ago. They were created as the first biological artificial intelligence. They are subjected to a program, and that program is very specific. It's to exterminate the Aboriginals, the original people of the creators. So don't get it twisted like you're gonna finesse your way into getting them to do right by you. They operate by a program of survival. They have no choice. In order for them to survive, they must maintain white supremacy. Now, a lot of them are waking up to the fact that it's wrong. A lot of them are waking up to the fact that it is creating generational curses on their children and their children's children, and they don't want to be a part of it. But they don't understand the metaphysical mechanism behind what they're doing because they're in survival mode. If I woke up in a Caucasian body and I knew there was some beautiful melanated people running around, stronger, faster, and more intelligent, and beautiful, I would feel real insecure, you know. And so we have to face that reality. Now, on the metaphysical level, it goes even more advanced than that. We talked about the fact that at some point, if you continue to submit to their agenda of biological artificial intelligence, you too will fall prey to being incarnated in the next life or the next 10 lifetimes as a Caucasian. And the primary objective of the entity that created them 6,000 years ago is to replace the natural order, the natural human beings that were made in the image of the creators. So don't get it twisted. Now, Claude Anderson was right. He had a good outline. But the problem with that is when you try to get Black bureaucrats to come together, so half of them are Democrats, half of them are Republicans, half of them are Baptists, Methodists, Catholic. They're all divided. They're never going to come together on a simple agenda of saving their people because they all jacked up in the head. Different fraternities, sororities. Our people are so divided, it's crazy. So what we're doing is, let's look at Claude Anderson. Why don't we own more than 1%? Because once again, that was AI's intelligence to create documentation to say they own all of our land and all of our wealth. And they just came out of the caves 6,000 years ago. And they are an inferior species of us. Now, they are our cousins. Let me explain to you how they got to be our cousins. Now, all of this is in our book, and I'm not just selling a book right now, because we're developing an apprentice program for chiefs. We need to develop chiefs within our culture. And these young chiefs, we're going to teach them metaphysics, everything they need to know as to how we're going to defeat this artificial biological program. All right, so how they get to own everything, once again, their primary objective was to eliminate our DNA from the planet. Why only 1%? Once again, that's in accordance with the psychological warfare that they have used on us. Now, the fact finding, let's look at these steps that Claude Anderson was talking about. The fact finding. Well, the fact is that all over this planet, the creators, and we're going to teach the chiefs this information. And you don't have to be, brothers, you don't have to be embarrassed about what you didn't know. They did a good job at hiding the truth. I mean, they've been doing it. They're masters at it. They're liars. They're cheaters. They will deface statues, break the noses off, the lips off to keep you from recognizing who you are. You are the original creator by the original creators. And the program was to challenge you. All right. So the fact finding is we need to study all the history. There is a covered up history right here in the Americas that want to keep you from knowing and understanding you are the Aboriginals. The Mongoloid Native Americans that they call the Indians came along thousands of years after you. All right. So we need to that's the fact finding that we're going to be developing. Private corporations. You can go to them private corporations all you want. They know the agenda. It is a documentary by a Haitian called "Exterminate All the Brutes." They talking about us, Black people. Okay, so they intended to do that. You know, so going to them, asking them to do the right thing, we're not going to get away with it. A national convention, that is true, and we are developing a national convention. And all you young brothers that are chiefs, potential chiefs, we want you to attend this national convention and display the knowledge that we're going to share with you over the next 6 months. You know, we're going to let you speak and let you be involved with this movement. See, we don't need their permission to reclaim our planet, to reclaim our heritage, to reclaim our history. All we got to do is find the truth. All right. So a model for reparations. So the model is that we have land all throughout the Americas. We need to rediscover this land, and Claude Anderson was right. Get it determined or classified as tax exempt and exempt from intrusion by these colonizers or these invaders of our land that came here in the 1400s and systematically murdered our ancestors and put us in a religious system to help us forget who we were. So so by reclaiming that land and getting it determined as a collective in trust as heir property, so that every chief operating on that land will follow a directive of us reestablishing our nationality as Aboriginals. All right. So we declare ourselves as a nation. We've done that. Here at UAAR, we have a constitution, we have a Declaration of Independence. We are separating from the invaders. The artificial intelligence, biological components, that they have one special mission: exterminate melanated people. A lot of them don't know that because they don't want to tell it to their children in the beginning. But some of the ones in the Klan and the different Jewish organizations and these white supremacist organizations, they know their objective: exterminators. And that's why they're doing it in a strategic manner. But understand, ultimately, the objective is to remove your DNA from the planet. All right, I'm gonna catch my breath. Queen Mother, you've been doing some research on our Aboriginal, and I know you've been doing that. You studied the African history for quite some time, but you've been coming up on history of our Aboriginal roots here in the Americas as well. Can you expand on that?
Well, I'd love to broaden our awareness of the fact that my understanding and from my education, life started in Africa. The human being, the motherland, Africa, whatever part of it, doesn't matter. Human life began in Africa, huge continent, right? So if that's the case, then Black people were the first human being. They found the remains of Lucy or Deknesh, the oldest female Homo sapien. So from her, if we look at that and the populace begins to grow, the land masses thousands upon thousands of years ago, the land masses were together. There were not the great oceans that we have, the Atlantic and the Pacific Oceans. The land masses were together. And people from the diaspora, the African diaspora, were able to migrate across the Bering Strait over to the land that we now call America. So when you say, King Andre, that we were already here, that's how we got here. We were migratory from Africa to the Americas and brought with us the culture, the skills of pyramid building, all of the technology that was given to them by, if they were extraterrestrial beings that came to help build those structures. You could see the manifestation of those in Mexico with the Olmecs. So we have that connection from Africa to Mexico, America, the Native Americans, the Indians, if you want to call them that, Black people, that's where the migration began. So I think we need to understand that point first, that the motherland was the area of production of human life or human being, whether however they created white people at that time, or manufactured using artificial intelligence to manipulate the human form or the DNA. Nevertheless, those of us that are of pure thought and reincarnate and are the gods and goddesses of our Creator, we all came from the same place. So understanding that part, I think, is very significant. When we touch on the idea of this Jordan Maxwell, this guy that talks about being part of history and the lies that have been told about our history, I'm going to quote something that I read from him. He said, "When people become educated, you can't control them. You can't frighten them. People who are educated know their own power and don't surrender it to others." So what UAAR is offering our people is an opportunity to not be frightened, know their own power, bring us as a collective group so that we can reestablish the balance that's so out of balance on this planet. And that's what we're bringing to the people, to those that are ready to understand that we have a power within us that will allow us to defeat the negative energy forces that are making our planet imbalance and out of order and out of harmony, out of sync, all of that. We will need to do that. And as it relates to reparations, when we do that, we are repairing and healing our minds as well, not only just financially, because if we stay within this matrix, we're still using the currency of this current government that has oppressed us and taken us through all of the Jim Crow laws and so forth and so on to step out. But when we create our own sovereign nation, we must be ready when the local governments of today, when they start to disintegrate, we must be ready in place to move in and replace all of it so that we live in a place of peace and joy, justice, righteousness, harmony, and balance, and reciprocity. We'll need to split into that.
All right, so Chairman,
Thank you very much for letting me have a say. Thank you.
yeah, no, and I want you to come back. We may have to, that video that you sent me, we wanted you to point out some things on that. We'll come back to that later on in the show. Chairman, you have some Caucasian friends that are dear to you. And
Family.
yeah, and so this may be a little offensive to your relationship with them. We have to take that into consideration. But you know, uh, are your Caucasian friends, do they convey sincerity about our plight as a people? And Chairman, as I look at you, you are definitely an Aboriginal of the Americans. I don't believe your ancestry directly came from Africa in the last 5,000 years. I believe your ancestry, as well as mine and my son, and Brenda's, was developed here over 50 to 100,000 years at least. But do you believe that your Caucasian friends, do you agree, or do you feel that they have the propensity to show compassion and to help out the dilemma of the Aboriginals based on what Dr. Claude Anderson is saying? We're done.
Well, you say friends. I reiterate that I have family that are white. I was married to a Caucasian. We share a child together. And my concept is, we're all God's children, regardless of pigmentation. And the people that I'm related to, they believe in fairness. They don't show prejudice. My uh, father-in-law, who was a Caucasian, you know, he introduced me to his relatives up in the northern part of Canada as this is my son-in-law. He said that first, son-in-law. Then he said, Becky's husband. He was giving me the props. He didn't have to take me in front of his family. He could have been embarrassed and say, oh, I don't want them to know that my daughter married a black person. I've got, kinfolk through marriages that highly respect me to the utmost. I see them bickering amongst themselves more so than trying to put me down in any kind of way, you know. So yeah, you got a certain amount of Caucasians that fear blacks, don't want to see us come together because they understand the strength of our pigmentation is dominant. That's just obvious. That's why some of them do want to hold us down, because if we continue to procreate and intermix, the Caucasian will disappear. It'll just be a darker complected pigmentation on planet. And they say that even when I was in school, that eventually it'll be a yellow race of people because the Chinese multiply quicker than the blacks, you know. But whatever the case is, we've got to learn how to live in harmony with each other, because I don't believe that whites came from us. I believe that they came from another solar system to planet Earth, but they knew they came from somewhere else. That's why they were able to navigate this planet and go around looking for a better land mass than what they had in Europe. And we all know that they did control South Africa for a time, and just recently, blacks basically took it over because of fairness. If it had not been for fairness, they probably still have control because they outgun us, you know. But that's not the case. Fairness is coming into play, but we as black people got to come together and learn how to respect each other, and then we can get what's due to us. We can get our own. We can duplicate. We don't have to ask somebody to give us something. We can get our own. But the biggest problem is we're not together. Black families aren't together. There's bickering and, hatefulness in so many black families today. It's sickening, to be honest with you, even in my own family, and I can even say with some of my kinfolk, like my children, Not only a couple of them that are really out there, but that hurts my spirit to know that, we're not together as a family. And when you're divided like that, anybody can come in and take over and do like they want to do. But if you stick together with the strength and the potential ability to gain knowledge, you can conquer what you will. We see that in everything that we do. We rise to the top, but we're not at the top because we're so divided. But my way of looking at life is I stop looking at pigmentation and I look at spirit. Either you're a godly person or you're a devilish person. That's how I deal with people. And I will do that for the rest of my entire life on this planet. When I meet people, that's how I'll deal with them. If I meet somebody from another solar system, I will look at him in the sense of, is he godly or he's devilish? Because godly people are going to do the good things. Devilish people are going to do the devilish things. And that's the way it is. I can go on and tell you about how much respect I get from my white family, but it's not necessary. You guys know where I stand.
Absolutely. Hey, well, okay, Chairman. So I wanted we have a Juris Doctor in our midst, Aboriginal Juris Doctor Andre Hill Jr. One of the other things that Claude Anderson stated was at legal level, filing petitions against the invaders, on how they illegally conquered our lands and took over and titled all the land into Caucasians that they brought over from Europe, through land banks. How are we situated legally? And this is good coming from your generation. How are we situated legally, and how we're moving forward to meet the requirements of what Claude Anderson was talking about?
Well, where we are at right now is, as far as your question goes, how are we situated legally? Let me kind of rephrase the question for you. So what Claude Anderson was saying is correct. In general, in other words, do we need to reacquire the land and put it back into our possession under the auspices and the guise of our own political body and or nation? Yes, we need to do that. Absolutely. And what that does is that takes it out of one jurisdiction and puts it into ours if we set up our governance structure correctly. In other words, if we say, hey, just like every other nation, or how we showed, when I say we, when I mean Aboriginal people all over the planet who started civilizations and pretty much patented and coined all forms of government. If we follow that same process, as we invented it, and say, hey, other nations, we're letting y'all know that we have the ability, the capacity, and the right to form a collective of people with similar attributes and like mind, and say we're forming our own autonomous government. And again, we're putting every other government on notice, and with the intention or the expectation of those other governments saying, hey, we recognize what you're doing, we see you, we respect you, and yes, we recognize out of respect your ability to self-govern, right? So as far as where we are with that, truth told is there's an emerging movement of Black Aboriginal people formulating our own governments and wanting to manage our own jurisdictions. And just like you stated earlier, we are doing that with you all. I know several other Aboriginal American governments that have already been established, and they have the same capacity to do so. So we can look at it as I forget which elder said this. I think it was MLK said we had to pull ourselves up by our own bootstraps. Is he the one that said that? Yeah, so that's what that is. That's literally doing what we always known how to do which is cultivate and maintain civilization. And so legally, where we are with that is, making the steps towards formulating our own government and setting up the structures to manage territories, geographical locations, and quote unquote property that we want to divide up or not. It's really up to us how we want to determine how we allocate land. But that, again, that's the task of it.
So, okay. Now, I want to focus in on the brothers here because, I've been conducting, can you get that video ready with Ali? I've been conducting a social media experiment here over the last few weeks. How do we get our women to get involved with this movement? They are apprehensive. They've been left unprotected for 400 years, and they've had to survive by any means necessary. And one of the things that Ali, and I'm still studying this, that she said that the average Aboriginal woman she maxes out at a level of intellect of a 14-year-old. And I said, wow. She said, what happens is that, this is my interpretation. She is saying, but when a woman reaches 14, the age of 14, she basically maxes out. She's mature physically, and she calculates how she's going to survive, what she has to work with. And that's the way I see it. So brothers, what she's saying, and not in this particular video, but what she has said is we have to understand that when we're dealing with this woman, our Black woman, based on her circumstances for the last 400 years, we have to think of as if we're dealing with a 14-year-old, because they already have in their mind, I got to survive by any means necessary. And that's a problem. I'm going to explain more of the results of that experiment. Go ahead and play this video, man.
The white woman's liberation movement, we don't have anything to do with that. We have not been under the control of the black man for over 500 years, so what do we have to get liberated from them from? That's the white woman and her man. They're going through that, and that's their business. They only introduced it to break down the civil rights movement. Civil rights movement started with the black man, the black woman, and the black child standing together, trying to plead for freedom, justice, and equality, and more benefits in the country that they had to have built. They threw the white woman in there with the women's liberation movement and made it a woman against man thing. That created a big separation between black men and black women, because then everybody started going for self. Then they bring the welfare system in and tell us in order to feed and clothe and house our children, we have to give up our man. You have to put the man out of the house. Because they want to keep endorsing into the black community that the black man is no good, and that he is not deserving of respect, he is not deserving of us letting him give us any protection or instruction, and that we are better than them.
So this is the slow kill. All right, we've been through this. We've been over this over and over again, and young chiefs, because I get downloads constantly, and they said the downloads from the Most High basically said, you melanated brothers, y'all have some serious egos and personality conflicts, and so there are certain personalities from a metaphysical perspective. There's usually cardinal signs that we need to start cultivating as chiefs, because as we reclaim our land, we need to put chiefs that have been well prepared to understand the metaphysical dynamics of the universe. So we don't have time and opportunity to get into an arms race, build a Raptor F-22 or F-15, all of that, and laser. All of that's hand-me-down technology, as we discussed last week. We don't have time for that. But what we do have, that pineal gland that creates that melanin in your body, there's a way you can access that so you can start communicating with the Most High. Now, the reason I'm saying this is because also the Catholic Church was very ingenious on creating a false god for us to worship. And a lot of our women If you talk about their Jesus Christ, they'll cut you with this. They'll cut you. You know, they'll be ready to fight. And so there's nothing we can do about that. You know, because even though they manifested and their future self manifested everything that they've done, they have been programmed to give that credit to a pale skinned, stringy hair Jesus Christ. Even if I tell them that the letter J is 500 years old, was introduced to the alphabet only 500 years ago, and that the so-called Christ was here 2,000 years ago, the math don't match up, but they still like, well, I don't care, it's still Jesus. You know, so kings, young chiefs, we understand that. We understand also, here's something that I found out in an experiment just over the last week. A young melanated woman, you know, was disappointed with a melanated brother. So she left him and went out into the environment and got tricked and trapped. And so what is she preparing her mind to do? Get with a Caucasian man to rescue her, sleep with her, and do whatever she has to do to save her, rather than, even if he's married and got a woman, she is ready to take a second position to save her butt. You know, and this is going on right now. This is going to happen to your women, because once we've told you over and over again, these entities, these humans, are artificial intelligence. They are biological artificial intelligence. They have souls. They do have souls, but their souls are diminishing. Every time you commit crimes against humanity or the laws of the universe, your soul diminishes. It'll go all the way back to operating an animal if you lose your human privilege. So to you young black chiefs, we don't want you to lose your privilege to these melanated bodies. As a matter of fact, to some of the Caucasian men that desire beautiful melanated women, you can earn the privilege to get a melanated body again. Now you really gonna have to buy one of our books to understand how that dynamics work. It's not complicated, but it'll help you. You know, so you young chiefs, what we're offering you to get involved with this United Aboriginal American Republic is the opportunity to do what you want to be achieved. If you don't know what a cardinal sign, get with my son, he'll explain it to you. You got the desire, well, I want to lead, get with my son, he will explain it to you. Hey man, what's the email address they can contact us with?
Give me your email address.
Oh, no, I thought you had the UAAR email.
Oh, yeah, uaarlife@gmail.com.
Okay, yeah, send us an email. And, you know, just tell us you're interested in the chief apprenticeship program, because as we acquire land, we have to appoint different chiefs to run that particular land. And I know it's in you, you know, because as long as you know you can be the chief, you rather work from that perspective. And you are in the first level, in the first phase of people that will be chosen to, you know, as chiefs. We need warriors, we need technicians, we need all of these things. But right now, we're having a real tough time getting our women involved because of the issues that I just explained with Sister Ali, and, you know, the condition of our women being unprotected for 400 years. You know, they have mutated, assimilated for survival purposes. So you as Aboriginal men, with the power, the spiritual power that you have, you're gonna give up everything, you know, because of the psychology of these artificial intelligent beings, biological beings. All right. Okay, so Junior, was there anything else that you had to say about the legal part of what Claude Anderson was saying? He said the legal level. Now, I do know there was some different Aboriginal groups filing petitions and all of that. Are you familiar with any of that?
Well, I heard what the elder said, and like I say, for the most part, he's correct in general. But what we're doing with will be considered the sixth level of what he was talking about anyway. It would be the last level of what he was talking about. So where we are with it right now is when we think about establishing your own government, and we have to think about everything that comes along with it. That also includes your own economic system, meaning not. This is what I want to convey to the people. Is to convey to our people in particular. We still imagine that the monetary instrument that we need to trade in order to get anything of sustenance to live day to day has to be a dollar bill, a piece of paper with a dead Caucasian man's face on it. That programming is still in us that we have to rewire. I mean, just even imagine that when we say we create our own government, we have to establish an economic system with a trade instrument. Let's say that has your daughter's face on. What's the difference? What's the difference? Why can't we have a trading instrument, a dollar bill, that has a young, beautiful Black girl's face on it that you can resonate with, right? So I'm saying all that to say this. When you're talking about creating chiefs, these are the type of directions of train of thought that we need to go into, because this is what will get us our respect among the nations of nations around this planet and the rest of the universe.
All right, so let's go ahead, and we had one of the issues on the drone issues, and the reason why we're bringing this up again, I ran across a couple of videos of some military personnel expressing what they thought was going on with these drones. And we can give some commentary after we play this video.
This video because I have figured out what the drone situation is. I was in the Army, active duty. I worked on drones. I was a maintenance NCO for some surveillance drones. And before that, I worked on the Apache, the Kiowa. I know aviation. So what people are not noticing is that you have two separate types of drones and two separate types of things in the air right now. First off, the drones that you see with flight lights or anti-collision lights or the things that the FAA requires, those are drones that are probably operated by the United States government. Now, the orbs that you've been seeing on the internet, that is the reason why all those drones are up there. And that is also why the government isn't telling you what's going on. And that's because the drones that you see that look like regular aircraft, those drones are up there to get some information on the actual orbs, which are actually the UFOs.
Okay, but you have the other brothers? Okay, we're gonna play one more of those videos.
What's up, TikTok? I'm back with another video. I will be speaking about the drones. All right, as you know, I'm in the Army, the military, whatever you gonna call it. Look, we are launching the drones up in the sky as of right now in New Jersey and stuff, in Texas, everywhere. Like, y'all don't gotta be afraid. Them are man-made drones. And we're doing the launching or whatever. Now, what you do have to be concerned of, my bad, my eye, but is the orbs that's inside the sky that y'all see that's glowing and stuff, that's shooting down the drones and all that. That's not a part of us. Them are actually real life aliens. Like, aliens do exist. They're above and they're below us. Yes, they do exist. And 2025 there will be a lot more of exposing the truth. I can't say the reason why, but because it's already out here, so I can speak on this. Aliens are real, and we will have to evacuate sooner than later. But just be careful. Keep looking up in the sky at night. They only come at night. They will only come at night. I don't know the reason. I just know it's been investigated, aliens are real. And we're trying to figure out why they're here visiting us right now. It's a lot going on within the United States. It's a lot of everything, but they're real. Be careful. Watch out.
Okay, so to you young chiefs that are listening to this program, and any sister that got nephews, fathers, uncles, brothers, and you know these brothers are looking for a solution and direction, send them to us. Have them to watch this video. Extraterrestrials have been here since the beginning of time.
Amen.
Like the young brother said, but above and below, they have advanced technology. They down in the ocean beds. They come in through portals from other solar systems. They help develop us, the first humans. You know, so chiefs, young chiefs. The reason they're showing themselves now, they realize the strong psychology that has been laid on this planet. The corruption is like in the movie Devil's Advocate, the stench is reaching up into the high heavens of the corruption on this planet, as seen by all of the politicians, the Diddy in the entertainment, the NFL, the professional sports, the gambling, all the corruption stench is reaching into the high atmosphere. And so once again, this experiment is in doubt. These extraterrestrials, young chiefs that's going to join this movement, they are hailing you to say, listen, don't be afraid. We have the most advanced technology. Your humans don't have it. It could be because the aliens that gave them the technology that they have gave them hand-me-down technology so they can continue to pimp. The United States government is the main culprit of cutting a deal with these low-frequency aliens. So what they're letting you know is that when the U.S. Army send those drones up there, those orbs can dance around. They can shoot our orbs out of the sky because it's dumbed down technology. So you don't have to fear any of this. You don't have to fear the ET. They're here to help you reclaim this planet and clean up this corruption. So go to our UAR email and send us a message. You don't have to be fearful anymore. I'm gonna lose my job. No, you got to take charge, because you know, just like I heard in talking about gay people versus the gay struggle versus the black struggle. See, the gay people that are Caucasian, if the crap hit the fan, they could just pretend that they are straight again and blend right into the crowd. But you have melanated skin. You can't do that. That's the difference between our struggle and those Caucasian, all those other so-called struggles. You have the most defined struggle there is. But these extraterrestrials are telling you, we got your back, but there is a system. There's a simple key as to how you get them to back you. And it's a collective togetherness. And we know how to prepare you for that, how to purify your soul. So I'm gonna leave it at that. You know, this hour went by really quick.
Yeah, one more video. You want to show that one?
Yeah.
Government knew about the ET presence no later than July of 1947 in Roswell. Made the decision at that time to keep that from the American people. Fine. Almost exactly 5 years later to the week, there was a significant flyover of Washington, D.C. The U.S. government had a problem. General John Sanford made the response for the government, which was equivocative, but not unreasonable. But also there came a response from Donald Keogh, who flat out said, these are extraterrestrials. It's not human. Again, the government made the decision to keep this from the American people. 10 years later, 1962, we had the Cuban Missile Crisis, where we almost had a nuclear war. Only 4 years after that, these craft started appearing over our nuclear facilities and shutting our nuclear weapons down. How many times this happened in the 60s, we don't know. Because the Air Force probably at some point was able to keep a much tighter rein on the outcome. But witnesses for a number of these shutdowns came forward. They have been trying to testify before Congress for 30 years, which is when they initially made the decision to start coming forward, led by Captain Robert Salas. The government has not allowed them to testify, and in fact, it has virtually ghosted them. It was about the only thing they could do. All right. And so that was in the 60s. Again, the government kept this from the American people. Decades went on. And then we start to approach what I think is the end game, the end of the truth embargo. And we start moving into that 7-year period, starting in 2017. But it's not been easy. It's been slow. There's been pushback. There's been some wins and losses, but we are moving toward disclosure without question. However, we are also moving toward nuclear war. Just that one thing alone is enough to be justification for more action from them. And so as we stall on the disclosure process, we suddenly have what the history will call the era of the drone swarms, the drone swarm flap. Let me take you back to May 17th of 2022. At that time, we had a hearing in front of the subcommittee of the Intelligence Committee in the Senate. Scott Bray and Ronald Moultrie. It was the first hearing, by the way, since the last one in 1968. So we're talking 54 years. So that's progress. And they came in, they were working for the UAP task force, and they testified. It wasn't, grandiose. It was kind of basic. A lot of people were not satisfied. But at that hearing, you may recall, a video was presented, a video that had emerged not too long before the hearing was held. And it involved a drone swarm around one of our ships at night, not over New Jersey, not over the UK, not over some part of the United States, but over one of our ships at night. And they did not shoot them down. In fact, they didn't do anything. And the only reason we got that film is because, well, a lot of sailors have cameras. They're allowed to take cameras with them. And somebody filmed it, and it got in our hands. And Scott Bray, tried to explain it, but it was really painful. So the drone swarm era goes all the way back to 2022. And it has been escalating ever since. And so here is my conclusion. The extraterrestrials have lost their patience. And the risk to us as a civilization has only increased. And so they've decided we're going to end this nonsense. And so they are doing incursions, using their devices, whatever they are, not just in one place, not in two places, not on one continent, multiple continents. And the U.S. government knows it. And what do? Here's what they do, right? You can't shoot them down. They know they're extraterrestrial, I can assure you, right? Trying to shoot down extraterrestrial craft of any kind or orbs of any kind, you end up killing human beings, and it's hopeless. You don't want to send up piloted craft because they could crash. So you send up your own drones to somehow monitor them as best you can. And so what you're seeing is a mix of military drones and non-human craft entities of whatever type they want, engaging in some, I guess, process, probably mostly surveillance by us of them. And that is all the government can do. And so what the ETs and their genius have done is put the United States government, the UK government in an impossible position finally. In other words, we can't tell you what they really are, though we know, but we can't stop them from doing this. And they continue to do it, and they will continue to do it. And the pressure on the government, the embarrassment for the government will become excruciating. And those people within the United States government that somehow have decided that we will never know this truth as long as they walk this face of the earth will finally just capitulate. To the growing number of people within our government think it's time we know the truth about this. And so this is an ET-driven intervention to get us into the post-disclosure world before we blow ourselves to hell, The current engagement of it is to send up our own drones to try to, I don't know, follow them, do what we can. The whole thing is a giant fiasco, and it only leads one way, right? There's so many of these things can go on, and so many members of the Senate or the House or the DOD that have to come out with ridiculously idiotic answers and make complete fools of themselves before they realize if we would end this truth embargo, we could stop making fools of ourselves and our government and move on with civilization. That's the narrative that I'm using for this. I'm very comfortable with it, but I certainly invite those that disagree. Thank you.
All right. So,
Wow.
you know, we actually, he said some things in that video that we actually covered with the colonel that we brought on the show some time ago.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I believe his name was Colonel Hecker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Donald.
And I remember very distinctly, I asked Mr. Hecker a very particular question. I asked him, do you think that UAPs and or UFOs have been showing up at nuclear production sites? In other words, nuclear waste sites, nuclear energy sites, and nuclear weapon sites, particularly to shut them down for the reason of humans not knowing. Well, let me say this. Let me dial that back. About biological artificial intelligent humans not knowing the implications of dealing with nuclear energy on a universal, or let's say even a galactic scale. And he responded, yes, I believe that is exactly why they were always intervening and interfering with those nuclear sites. And the point of me asking him that was, I'm not going to go down too deep down this rabbit hole, but a nuclear war is not going to happen. A mass nuclear war is not going to happen because since I believe nuclear capabilities have been around, there's always also been a presence of extraterrestrials, UAPs, intervening on them because nuclear capabilities have the ability, have the potential to disrupt space and quote unquote time on a galactic scale beyond the understanding of a regular human being. And the extraterrestrials knew this. So they said, no, we can't let y'all play with this type of fire. You don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're doing. So we, you know, for the sake of your little experiment on this planet in the little bit of time window that you have to do it, yeah, you can tinker with this stuff when we're going to observe you to see how you handle it. But we're not going to let you burn your house down for sure, or any other house down in this galaxy. So with that being said, just like you were saying earlier, these advanced beings, which are essentially us, have always had our back. We've written this down in our own ancient cosmology system since time immemorial, for one. But two, in contrast to what this guy's saying in this video, it's beyond the notion of us having to have some kind of parental entity like the U.S. government speak to or intervene with extraterrestrials on our behalf. It ain't got nothing to do with them. It ain't our business of whether the U.S. government is embarrassed or not. That's not our problem. Our concern should be how are we individually and as a collective raising our own frequency and being able to tap into communication with these advanced beings. They ain't here looking at the U.S. The U.S. government is not an object for them. They're looking at us saying, "Are y'all ready or not? Are y'all ready or not?" If we can get them out the way, they ain't no problem. They're only here for a temporary time anyway. But are y'all ready to step into your ascension seat? Yes or no? If not, we've got some processes for you. We got some processes for you. This human experience on its grand scale, and and our position in the galactic family and ecosystem is way more important than the temporary tenure of the United States government, which has only been here for like 200 something years. That's less than a blink of an eye in the grand scheme of things. A history just on this planet, let alone around the galaxy, especially let alone in the universe. So what we have to ask ourselves is, in the same direction of what we're doing with you all, we're saying we're separating from this little AI matrix, and we're separating particularly for the purpose of having a safe space to cultivate our own harmony and ascension. They understanding, okay, so they see in groups like ours say, okay, we see some of them are doing exactly what they need to do. And those are going to be the ones we communicate with most in priority, I would say.
Absolutely.
All right. So when we say we want to separate and go get our own land and govern our own jurisdiction, it ain't for the sake of that basic primitive concept of wanting to carve out some lands and draw some invisible lines in the ground and say that's a property line and it's worth this much of some insignificant trade instrument. That's not the purpose of it. The main purpose of it is making sure that we're at our most high vibration, and so that we can maintain our harmony in the galactic ecosystem of things, and thus the true evolution of life. That's what it really boils down to. That's where it starts on the spiritual level, and then everything else kind of falls under that. But like I say, in contrast to what this guy was saying in his video, I don't really want our people getting caught up in whether or not the government and the U.S. military or any other military around the world has some kind of authority to speak, intervene, negotiate, or anything on behalf of you with your ascended celestial family. And I'll land that plane right there.
All right. Well said, man.
Very well said. That was beautiful.
We're gonna close it out. What are your thoughts to these young chiefs that need to come in and get signed up and get in this program?
Did you say you speaking to me?
Yes, you, Chairman.
No, I'm just still in awe of what Junior said, like he just hit it right on the head. I don't need to say anything else. Just play that over again, what he just said. Let it marinate, because that's the real deal.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
all right. Well, Brenda, we're gonna close it out. What's your final thoughts? What would you say to these young chiefs?
I would say that those orbs that they see are our protectors, and that we must not be afraid and be unlimited in knowing your power.
Hey, that'll work. So I'm going to close out by saying to the young chiefs, if in your back of your mind is saying that you're ready to make that next step, we have the knowledge for you. I have 66 or 67 now years of business experience, and in all my experiences and all the businesses that I've ran, it's an illusion. It's a trap. It's a fake economic system. You're not going to get rich. You're not going to find financial independence. We must separate from this illusion of this monopoly game and create a system of balance where we're feeding, clothing, and educating humanity so that it can elevate to the next frequency. Come get with us and watch the change in your life. Hey man, what's that email again?
UAARLIFE@gmail.com. URLife@gmail.com.
Hey, on that note, we're 16 minutes over, but it was well worth it. So we'll come back next week. Brenda have some subjects more on our Aboriginal status and also the United States government and the forest that operates behind it. We don't need it, you know, and it's time to wake up and separate. On that note, peace out, and we'll see you next week.
Mild Hotep.
Conversation piece.